Hey, what's going on, all of you new real estate agents? I just took my state and national real estate exam this morning. I passed them both. It was my first try. I honestly can't even believe it. I had my boyfriend look at the passing things to make sure that it said pass because I really couldn't believe it. But once I kind of calmed down a little bit, I walked out of the test, they gave me the thing, I saw that I passed. I wrote down everything that I could remember from the 110 questions that I answered so I can come back and tell you exactly what is on your real estate exam. So I took it in Texas. Some of these questions are going to be Texas specific. I tried to remember the national ones, so this video will be applicable to everyone. If you have any friends in Texas that are trying to get their real estate license, tag them below or send them this link so they can pass the exam. Isn't that what we all want? To pass our exam so we can start practicing as a real estate agent and change lives and make the money that we all want. So let's dive in. The first thing I want to say, and I did so much binge studying and courses and prep agent, shout out to them, they're awesome. Everyone says the questions are super tricky, so be careful. They are so tricky. The biggest thing for me was that I had a lot of questions that had may on them, and they know that it's tricky because it's in all capital letters and bolded. So it would say like an agent, one question I remember is, an agent may give the IABS, the information about broker service, IABS to a client at first substantive dialogue via, and then all four answers were correct, I think. Well, I'm not actually sure, I guess on that one, but the answers were via on a link on your website, in your email signature, or in your email above the signature, personally delivered, and maybe in a text message. So again, the question was, an agent may give the IABS to a customer via, and then these were the four choices. So I don't really know what may means. There was another one, it's in my notes, so when we get to it, I'll remember. But just beware, read all of the questions. I whispered them out loud to myself because for me, I noticed when I was taking practice tests, I would find keywords, and then I would be like, oh, I know what a fixture is, and then I would guess the answer. But the other thing, they give you more information than you need. So there was a question about property value, and it gave a bunch of numbers. Okay, the home was built in 1968 or in whatever, and probably if you're reading, you're thinking, okay, that's lead-based paint. I need to give them whatever. So it's giving you things, or maybe that's Fair Housing Act. Like, it's trying to throw you off. So you need to be really careful about what they're looking for. One thing that I started to do during the test was I would see a big paragraph and then I would read the question first. So it would say like, Mary lives in a house with blah, 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 blah. But the question is really like, who's Mary's broker or whatever. So they're just trying to, trick you out, which is not very nice. So here's my list of questions. Let's just dive in. I want you to pass, and I want you to get your license. So a tricky one, I saw this in practice test, and I was happy that I saw it on the exam. It's about chandeliers. The question was, which of the following is a fixture? And the answer was a chandelier that is already attached to the property. A chandelier before it is attached is personal property. It's chattel, it's movable. Chattel is like cattle, and cattle's moo. So it's movable, but if it's attached, then it's a fixture. There were a few questions about commissions and commissions percentages. Remember that commissions, you can always negotiate them. It's no fixed cost, which actually there was a question about the Sherman antitrust. That was the answer. The question was like, Jennifer and Mary decide that they'll split the town in half, and Jennifer will take the west side and Mary will take the east side. What is this an example of? And that is illegal. You can't split areas like that because of the Sherman antitrust. There was a question about redlining and steering. There was one about blockbusting too. So just make sure that you know those vocabulary words. Oh, this was the other may question. When may a principal end an agency relationship? Or like, what is a valid reason? I forgot how they worded it. What reason may a principal use to end an agency relationship? And then, they were all reasonable answers. So just make sure you know it super, super well. Oh, I had a question I didn't know the answer to. It was talking about advertising when you're part of a group or a team. And I remember through my notes and seeing that and being like, this can't be that important. But when you're advertising, you have to say, I don't know, honestly, look it up, and it might be different state to state, but it was like, which is the following is appropriate advertising standard? And it's like, Melanie's brokerage group, or Melanie's team, or Melanie's group, or Melanie's realty. I think those are the 4 options. Like, they're all very similar. So just be aware, something with group and team. I had a question about the option fee, and the option period is a new contract. It's a separate contract within. So I forgot exactly what the question was, but it's a new contract. And I also had a question that was, when during the option period are they able to terminate the contract? And it's at 5 p.m. because it was like, the option period ends on Wednesday. When can they legally end it? And then the answer was like, Monday at 5, Monday at midnight, Wednesday at 5, Wednesday at midnight. And I sat there, I was like, I don't know if it's midnight or 5 p.m. And I chose 5 p.m. and then I looked it up and that was right. I'm not sure if that's state to state. I think that might just be in Texas that it's 5 p.m. Make sure what your state is. And honestly, let me know in the comments what state you're in, so maybe I can make a video that's specific to your state. There was also delivery. I had 2 questions about delivery for earnest money and for option money and where they go. Option money in Texas, again, I'm not quite sure. The option money goes to the seller or the seller's agent, and the earnest money goes to the title company. And if I also had a question about commingling. Commingling of funds is when you put, money that's supposed to be part of the transaction into your personal bank account, and that's illegal. And they're both 3 working days. So my question specifically said, like the contract is signed on a Thursday, assume there's no holidays, but there is a weekend. So Saturday and Sunday don't count for those days because it's only working days. I had 2 questions about front feet, which I didn't actually know, but I used context clues to figure it out. One of them was just asking about it, and front feet, I learned it as frontage, so I was like, this probably is it, is the space in front of, like in the front lawn. And the second question that I had about it was to figure out the cost of the value of a property. So it was like, this property is 800 by 100 feet, and they're building it at like $4 per square foot, plus $12 per frontage foot. What is the cost of the property? And then I multiplied 800 by 100 or whatever the numbers were by 4, and then just the front, so a square is like width times length or length times width, but it's the front times the $12, and then I added those together to get the answer. Flood insurance. I had 2 questions about flood insurance. Know that it is not required, but it is required if you're in a flood zone, and it's always suggested. And flood insurance is not covered by regular homeowners insurance. You need your own flood insurance for that. I had a question about the replacement cost approach, which is the current land value, the land value plus the property value minus the depreciation. And that was a question that they were like, she bought this home for $100,000 in 1970, and 10 years later, it's now worth blah, 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 blah. Like, it gave me a bunch of numbers, and you got to make sure to pay attention only to the numbers that you need. I had a few questions about intermediaries and how that works and how you assign appointments to them and stuff like that. I had a tricky question about who the seller pays, whether I think they just pay the broker and then the brokerage pays the agent. But that question was worded so tricky. I had to read it honestly like 7 times, and I still don't know what it was asking because I wasn't sure if it was who gets paid or who does the seller actually pay, and that is a different answer. So be aware of that. There was a question about old car, but it said like which of these is a fiduciary duty, and on my scratch paper I wrote out old car and I wrote out all the things that it stands for, and then I was able to look. There was a question about loan to value ratio, so I think it said like Albert's lender, or yeah, Albert's lender is going to give him like $80,000 and Albert wants his loan to debt ratio to be 80%. What price of property should he look for? So know that one. I had questions about time is of the essence and how that works, a few about contracts, and a few about practicing law, unauthorized practice of law, and how an agent can and cannot. You can strike through if the principal asks you to, but you can't add or strike through on your own. You can't use a contract that your brokerage made you. Again, this might just be Texas. I had a few questions about functional versus economic obsolescence. And the way that I remember that, functional obsolescence is like the way that it functions. I think about a fun house. So it's the layout, something, if your house is outdated, if your house is ugly, if your house is not fun, versus economic obsolescence is like, it's by an airport and now the price has gone down. So if you, I saw someone say, if you pick up the same house and you move it to another location, if it costs more in that location, then it's economic obsolescence. A few questions about the principles, like the principal substitution or regression or progression. Those were kind of tricky. I had a few about the Fair Housing Act and the exceptions to it. So like if you live in a 5-bedroom house and you're renting out one of the rooms and you're still living in the house, you can actually decide who you want to live in that room. And for religious reasons, or if it's a 55 and older community, you can say we only want 55 and older. A few questions about property management and the laws about what they can and can't do. I think I had 3 questions about property management, which was a curveball for me because I didn't really focus on that. One of them was who is the contract between, and it would be like to become a property manager, who is your contract with? And I think that's with the owner of the property. And your job as a property manager is to get the highest investment for that owner. And then there were a few things about what's legal to do with that property, like collect rent, sign the contract, pass out flyers to fill the empty rooms or spots. So look into that. Another one about working without a license, it said someone can sell a house without a license if they, or that was another may question. A person may sell their house without a license if they, and it was like, went to church with the seller, blah, blah, blah. So this was another tricky one. This is the last one I have. A married couple asks their agent about what community property they should get. Their agent should say, and should was in capital letters. And I didn't know, I knew what I thought was the best one for married people, and I think this is a Texas one, but there are a few different options, joint tenancy, tenancy in common, etc. But one of the answers was advise them to meet with a lawyer, which, again, like I don't know for sure if that was unauthorized practice of law. But I passed. So this is what was on the test. I hope it's helpful for you. I will let you know that during the test, I marked the ones that I wasn't sure of, and I did the math, and I was like, I'm going to fail. This is too many. And I walked out of there, and I was like, I failed. This was so hard. But I passed. I passed both of them on my first try. And I read online yesterday that the average real estate agent takes their test 4 times. So whether this is your first time taking it or your 4th or your 10th, you will pass eventually if you keep trying. I hope this video helped. If it helped you, send it to someone that you think it will help them. Good luck on your test. I'm wishing you the best. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, or I'll post my Instagram and Facebook links. Find me there. I love all things real estate. I'm here to help you figure out all things essential in the real estate world. So have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you soon.